The very first Christian record that I ever heard was Love Song. I put it on the record player and I was blown away. I heard Beach Boys, I heard the Beatles, I heard Crosby, Stills and Nash. They were in my wheelhouse and they were incredible at what they were doing.
Lend an ear to a love song. Ooh, a love song. Let it take you, let it start. What can you hear in a love song? If you can feel it, then you're feeling from the heart. All the emotions, true feelings of life is what music of love is about. If you are listening with peace in your heart and no doubt, so listen now to a love song. Ooh, a love song. Let it take you, let it start.
Hello, I'm John J. Thompson, and we lost another one, friends, at least for now. Chuck Girard, one of the founding members of the band Love Song, and a very influential solo artist and songwriter who helped develop the architecture of Jesus music over 50 years ago, passed away at the age of 81 after a battle with cancer. Chuck joins a tragic but inevitable list of friends who have gone on into that great new country before the rest of us. On this episode of the podcast, we visit with Chuck's friend Alex MacDougall, a guy who put the groove in much of the early Jesus music sound as the drummer and/or percussionist for The Way, Larry Norman, Daniel Amos, and countless other artists. Alex survived a bout with cancer very recently and was sharing some thoughts with me about it not long ago here in Nashville. I also asked my partner on this podcast and friend Bruce Brown to turn on his mic for this conversation. As many of you know, Bruce is right in the middle of his dance with the big C. Both Alex and Bruce had much more experience with the darker aspects of this story. This is a different kind of tribute, but I hope you'll join us for the journey. Before we roll my conversation with Alex and Bruce, we wanted to share a few words from Terry Scott Taylor, courtesy of the producers of the upcoming documentary, Us Kids.
Little country church on the edge of town. People coming every day from miles around for meetings and for Sunday school. And it's very plain to see it's not the way it used to be. Preacher isn't talking about religion no more. He just wants to praise the Lord. People aren't as stuffy as they were before. They just want to praise the Lord. And it's very plain to see it's not the way it used to be. No, no.
In San Jose, I became part of what was called the San Jose Hotline. We were a hotline for overdoses and people that were suicidal and that sort of thing. And we're just sort of a little church kind of thing. We would have Bible studies and that sort of thing. At some point, somebody got the bright idea to bring Love Song to San Jose. And, well, I'd never done anything like that in my life, and I didn't know anything about it at all. But I was dumb enough to think that I could, pull it off. And so I was able to contact, their manager and the whole thing and arrange the whole thing. We brought them to San Jose State. Of course, I was thrilled and in awe of them. So in the meantime, all the people at the San Jose Hotline, they know how much I love Song. And they said, Terry, you got to play them some of your songs. I said, I'm not going to do that. No way. It's not going to happen. Sorry, guys. And they kept harping on, insisting, you shouldn't let this opportunity go by, you know. So reluctantly, I bring my guitar the day that they were getting their sound check. I had my guitar there, and I'm nerves are shot. And across the room, I see Chuck Girard walking my way, you know. So I say, hey, Chuck, I don't mean to bother you, but I said, I've got a song. I didn't say songs. I said, I've got a song that I'd like to play for you whenever you get an opportunity. And he was a sweetheart. He said, oh, come on back. You know, we go in the back room here. We walk back. He opens the door, and the whole band's in there. And he goes, Terry's going to play us a song. So the whole band's in there, and I get my guitar. I'm shaking, and I'm like this, you know. This is a band. They're sitting there very quietly. And I go, I'm in the middle of a nightmare here. So I get my guitar out, and I start doing Ain't Gonna Fight It.
No, I ain't gonna fight it. His spirit's taking me there. Cannot doubt that love is in the air. Surrender my will to the one who's calling my name. They tell me once your heart's there, you'll never be the same.
I get to the end of it, and they were just smiling, and Tommy Coombs is sitting there, and he goes, you ever come down to Southern California, I'd like to do an album with you. Just like that. That was the connect right there with the Southern Cal thing. Then it was, then I got acquainted with, once we were down there, of course, there was The Way, which is a great band, and so many other incredible artists, but yeah, that was sort of the beginning of the whole thing.
Sun, come out and shine your love my way. Sun, come out and brighten up my day. This world's getting harder to bear. My burden's getting harder to share. You know that nothing else can compare to your love. Oh, please will you spare some sunshine in my life? A little sunshine makes things right. A little sunshine in my life. A little sunshine makes things right.
We are here with Alex MacDougall. Bruce is lingering in the background. Alex, thanks for stopping in today. And we just got the word that Chuck Girard passed away. We've known that was coming. And you and I have had this conversation going on about some things we wanted to talk about. To get things going, tell us real quick, what was your intersection with that whole California early 70s Jesus music that like how did you fall into that camp, and what were you doing, and all, just kind of give us that little background there.
Well, I was a complete music maniac, playing drums, and ever since I saw Ringo, February 9th, 1964, I said that's what I want to do. And that's what I did. All during junior high school and high school, I took lessons. And so I went to a Billy Graham crusade on a dare in October of 1969. I was fresh out of high school, and I ended up down on the field becoming a Christian. And so I had a lot of music buddies, a lot of musicians. We were all in garage bands and whatever. And so one of them came over to my house, and he had picked up a guy hitchhiking. And the guy lived at a motel in Newport Beach called the Blue Top. And he was a guitar player. And I was talking to him, and he had he had been a drug addict, but recently found Christ. But he lived with the Love Song guys. And so he said, you got to come out to this church, Calvary Chapel. This was right after the beginning of 1970. And so I did, and it was fabulous. I loved it. And let me say that every night of the week that the church had something going on, it was the little church. It was the little country church back then. And
so having been to Orange County, it's hard for me to imagine that being considered the country by anybody.
Back then, it was there were a lot of orange groves and bean fields. So growing up there, it was paradise, but that's gone now. And so I went to Calvary, and there was a band there, Joy was playing, a band called Joy, and then also Love Song. And so that was my beginnings with Love Song and Chuck. And of course, I grew up listening to Chuck on, holding my, let me grab one here, my little, transistor radio next to my ear at nighttime in bed, listening to the Castells and the Hondells. And of course, Chuck was in both of those vocal groups, and he brought that to Love Song. He brought those heavy vocal stylings, 3-part and 4-part harmony. It was very important. And that's one of the unique things about Love Song is that, genre-wise, they played all over the map in those early days. In 1970 and 71, they played, rock, folk rock, blues, country rock, but always with great vocal stylings. That was a key thing about them. And of course, they had a few different members coming in and out at times, but they were always great. And the anticipation when you would, this is the height of the Jesus movement in Southern California. It's long hairs and bare feet and hundreds of kids packed in and singing songs that we had never heard before, and the anticipation level of going to church. You just couldn't wait to get there, and the music would just be great, and we were all, felt like we were in, one accord, and it was just wonderful. So those are my beginning times with Love Song.
And here's the reason why I feel so good tonight. I'm doing what I want to, and it's part of me. Keeping close to Jesus, that's the way it's got to be. Knowing that this feeling will flow eternally. And what I am is all I have to be. I'm going through changes in my mind. Holding on to good things that I find. I'm going through changes in my mind. And I'm leaving all my emptiness behind. Yes, I'm leaving all my emptiness behind.
In those Jesus music days, it was more important a lot of times that you were really on fire for the Lord than that you were a great musician. So there were a lot of people that could kind of play a few chords and they could sing a little bit, and that was good enough. And so that's one of the reasons that some of that music wasn't quite up to par. But with Love Song, who had all been musicians for so long at a high level, there was a different kind of skill set going on.
Yeah.
They were playing clubs and playing theaters, and then they all became Christians at the same time. They were all kind of part of that counterculture scene out there.
Yeah.
And they were so excited about finding Jesus that the only way they knew how to celebrate was to go get stoned together. And so, so after they got saved, they got high. And I just thought that was such a charming story because it kind of spoke to the naivete and the authenticity of that era.
Drunk in the spirit, been drinking Holy Ghost champagne. standard. My life has never been the same.
I remember when I went down on the field at the Billy Graham Crusade in October of '69, the only thing I wanted to do was get home and put, it was a double disc, Live Dead, on my, it was Grateful Dead Live. It was a double disc, and turn it up as loud as I could, and that's what I wanted to hear.
Now, you are a drummer and a percussionist, and you told me a few years ago, we were hanging out, a number. I asked you, I said, so how many records did you play on? And you dropped a number on me that just blew my mind, because you kind of ended up getting tapped to play with a lot of those groups and a lot of those records. So how many songs, how many records did you end up playing on?
I don't know, many hundreds.
Were you in on the, like, Maranatha 1 and 2? Were you?
No, I was still, at that time, I had decided that drums were too much of a god to me, and I couldn't play with anything, anybody or on anything. So I didn't for about a year and a half. And then when I started to get back into music, it was with a Christian band that my brother was in with a guy named Dave Diggs and Bill Batstone, and another guy a band was called Rebirth.
You did play on the First Way album, right? Before you actually joined the band?
I did.
But you were just doing percussion, right?
No, I played drums too.
Oh, you did play some drums? Okay.
Yeah, that was produced by Buck Herring, and they were all-night sessions. I remember we'd go in at about 11 at night up to L.A. to Mama Joe's because the daytime sessions were all with Ambrosia. And so we had the nighttime. And so I remember, going up and doing those with The Way. That's why I'm not a statue on the front of that first album, is because I hadn't officially joined the band.
No graven image for you.
Yeah.
If something goes wrong, you carry the weight yourself. There's nobody else who will share or even care. 'Cause I know that a life in this world is sometimes hard to take. And I know the prison you're in, there's only one way to escape, and that's believing in His word, believing in His word. 'Cause heaven and earth will soon be gone, but His word will still go on.
I was a drummer first, but then I also took Latin percussion lessons in high school privately. And so when John came around, John Mailer, he had it sewn up. He was great, a great player. And I thought, well, I want to be a part of this, but John's got all the gigs. So maybe if I play percussion. And so that was my impetus for getting into percussion, was John.
Jesus is what we can sing. Freedom is what He can bring. New life is what you will live. Heaven is what He can give. Jesus is why we can sing. Freedom is what He can bring. New life is what you will live. Heaven is what He can give.
You had such a close relationship with the Love Song guys. Tell us a little bit more about Chuck. Alex, you haven't been down there in the trenches with him. He seemed to have such a gentle presence about him, and Rock and Roll Preacher was a song that really hit me as a kid.
When I was young, my life was rock and roll music, just digging the wonderful sound. I'd get home from school, and when I finished my lessons, I'd listen to music till the sun came around. I'd sit by the hour and pound my old piano, pick out the chords of the songs I've heard on the air and all American bandstand, just learning the words and then I sing it along. But who'd ever thought I'd be a rock and roll preacher?
then there was a song called Slow Down that a Catholic group that I was aware of that used to come into True Tunes, I used to sell so many of that because this group that would do spiritual retreats and use that as a relaxation exercise and a meditation thing, that song was really popular. And when I listened to it, it was not my type of music, but that lyric was so important. And with all the kind of trauma and things I'd gone through, I needed it. When I did get to meet him, he just had this, my sense was he had this sort of gentle, kind of calm presence about him. What was your experience with Chuck like, and what kind of relationship did you have, and what kind of impact did he have on you?
Well, in my younger years, I was just a young, dumb musician. I didn't really know how to communicate until, well, hopefully I do now, but years later, as I grew up and matured and learned how to visit and speak and communicate, I was able to talk to Chuck. But back then, I was just in awe of him because they were unreachable. Love Song was in those days. Interestingly, about 4 months ago, I saw Chuck at a monthly luncheon that's held here in the Nashville area for old CCM guys. We talked outside a little bit, and then he called me a few days later, and he said, I wasn't brave enough or strong enough, whatever, to bring this up to you, but he said, I have cancer. I found out what stage it was and where it was located, and come to find out, his oncologist was the same doctor that I've had for 2.5 years. So that began our cancer dialogue at that point. But, he was, a lot of folks that get that disease, they don't want to even talk about it or even share it with anyone because it's a private thing. But for him, he opened up to me, and we had really good discussions about what he was going through and what I had already been through. So he was a really sweet man, a really good guy, a very kingdom-minded thinker, and it was just a delight to visit with him when I would see him.
Slow down, slow down, be still, my child, be still and wait on the Spirit of the Lord. Slow down and hear his voice and know that he is God, and know that he is God.
3 years ago, I was having difficulty swallowing, and it took me over 4 months to get seen by the specialist. And once they went in there and looked, I woke up from the procedure. I had esophageal cancer, which is not a good cancer to have. They said they would call me and hook me up with a oncologist, which they did. It got worse and worse, and I was immediately scheduled for chemotherapy concurrent with radiation therapy. All of that went on for 6 weeks. Radiation 32 days straight, and chemotherapy once a week for 6 weeks via a port that they put in my chest. And then I had a terrible side effects, and my blood was just really bad, and I had to go into the hospital by ambulance, and I was in the hospital for 28 days in the hospital, and then I had about 6 weeks off, and then they did the surgery to remove most of my stomach and my esophagus. And that is a highly invasive surgery. And the doctor told me at the time, the oncologist, he said, do not look up what you have on Google. Do not Google it. He said, it will take you to a very dark place quickly. And so I remained naive. I took his advice. I didn't want to know. My kids all knew, but I just took it as it came, and then had the surgery, and had that exactly 2 years ago this month. And I describe myself as a walking miracle, because I later found out I had a 13% chance of survival. So very, very fortunate. I am. Mm-hmm. Cancer, I mentioned this, I think I wrote this down on Bruce's Facebook page the other day, but cancer is a great leveler. It changes everything, because, when you get cancer, you join a club that you'd never thought you would be a part of. That's for somebody else. And then once you do, it puts you through so much, not only physically, but emotionally. And so, and it causes you to think about things that you've never thought about, and maybe even write those things down, which in my case has happened. I've been putting down musings and stories that have happened in my life, and I've just been chronicling everything that I could. But I never would have done that without going through cancer. And so what it's allowed me to do, the cancer, and having gone through all of the stuff, is it's allowed me great empathy for those that are dealing with it. And there are quite a few, and most of them have not come out public. This person or that person in the Christian music community has, a bad cancer, a stage 4, or, they're not doing well, but they're keeping quiet about it. So for me, it's been really good to try to be able to, to talk to them and counsel and advise, and just sort of hold their hand if I could.
When the day is done and gone and shades of evening come along, I sit alone and think of you, and I thank you that I have this quiet hour alone with you. Melodies and symphonies and gentle breezes in the trees, I must confess that all of these do nothing more than simply to remind me how wonderful you are. How can I tell you, Lord, how wonderful you are?
Bruce, do you have anything to add along those lines? Like, you're in the middle of this right now. You had chemo today, right? I mean,
Yeah.
So I mean, this is not, you're in the midst of it, and we're in the middle of all this stuff. Kind of, we're on the outside of it, but we're walking alongside you in this. When you hear Alex talk about that from the other side of it, what does that strike anything in you?
Well, I never really had, and I'm sure Al didn't either, a game plan for what you do when you get that news. I knew that I had some blood problems, and it had been dragging on for months and months and months, and, anemia and fatigue and everything, and finally had a second bone marrow biopsy in March, and the doctor said, yeah. I mean, she didn't waste any time. She was like a couple days later with me on a video call. She didn't even wait to make an appointment with me. She's like, yeah, we got to start dealing with this. And I mean, less than a week later, I had my first round of chemo. But I mean, anybody who's known me for a long time would not think that I think of myself as filtered. But one thing is, this has really made me unfiltered. I'm like, my prayer has just been, can I have some dignity? Can I have some respect? You know, can I somehow communicate that, you know, how I live with it to people?
Yeah.
And, you know, that I see some people who have done a good job of it, like Al, and I'm like, can I, you know, that's a great thing for me to imitate or to aspire to. So I decided, you know, beyond maybe a few bodily things, I would be as open as I could about what I was going through, and just hope that, you know, even if other people that are going through that also don't come public, like Al said, they just don't want to, that it'll help them.
We've come through a tidal wave up from an ocean grave, earth and thunder. Roll but inside again, sun shining bright again, signs and wonder concealed, now revealed. Down and then up again, God fills our cup again, grace is falling. Rain for the thirsty man, sinners and saints, we stand by our falling clouds, lifting now. Set sail to an endless summer. Set sail to an endless summer. We've been to the ocean floor, stop counting any more lost horizons. Some have abandoned ship, at times along the trip compromises. We know, take their toll.
I have not gone through cancer, but I had so many health problems when I was a kid and a teenager, and I can relate to the idea of trying to keep things private, but also I was not at all convinced that I was going to live to be in my 20s. You know, like that was not a given. And there was this, I don't know if you call it a practice, but a spiritual discipline more in the Catholic community of Memento Mori, and that priests would greet each other and say, remember, you will die. And they would say, yes, remember, you will die. Like they would shake each other's hands, hug each other with this reminder of mortality. And somebody told me about that when I was a teenager, and it was to sort of defang the fear of death and bring it present with you so that you could sit with it and then put it back away and be alive again. And I wonder, Alex, do you feel like that maybe that Jesus music, kind of ecstatic, charismatic, living in the moment, me and Jesus, and everything is kind of simple in that expression of faith, that maybe there wasn't enough memento mori in that theology, and that might be part of why some people are, I'm not saying just those people, but that Christians who aren't coached or trained or encouraged to think about their mortality might not be prepared when the mortality shows up on their doorstep, and that maybe that's part of the ministry that you have now?
Possibly, because, you know, when you're younger, you feel invincible, and, you know, the world is at your feet, and you don't think about this stuff. You know, I'm 74, and so I think about this stuff all the time now. I will say, you know, when I talked to Chuck the first time about cancer, I told him one of the things that I realized was that whether God took me or healed me, he was still good. And I had to hold on to that. He's good no matter what. And the second thing I told Chuck was, we all leave here. We all have to die. Everybody has to die. And most of us don't get out of here easily. right? And so I told him that I would rather have cancer and go from cancer than have a heart attack or a stroke on the playground with my granddaughter, right? And he agreed. He said, that is so right. I would rather go this way than have something happen to me with my grandkids or something. That would just be the worst. And so I kind of had that attitude during all of it. I kept that attitude that, you know, it was actually better to do this. As miserable as I was, it was better to do this than, you know, having something traumatic happen to one of my grandkids or something.
If you think that you are all alone and you have no love to call your everybody knows for sure when they find the heart that's
There's so much going on in the world, whether it's physical disease or a spiritual disease or a cultural disease. There's cancers of all types. There's metastasizing tumors happening all around us. And peace be still is not a greeting card. It's not a bumper sticker. It's a defiant thing. We're supposed to defiantly have peace in the midst of these things. And that's a terrifying, bold, difficult thing.
I think you're right. That's a really good point. I know for me, I had witnessed Chris Wimber of the Vineyard.
Oh gosh, I remember that.
I had witnessed his brain cancer, and at that time I worked for EMI, Christian Music Group. I was in charge of marketing Vineyard, so I would go out to California and meet with Chris and his staff. But I hadn't seen him for 4 or 5 months because of his cancer. And so I finally went out to meet with his staff. I'll never forget this. His wife came to me and says, Chris knows you're here and he wants to see you. So I hopped in her car and she took me over to see Chris. And there were 2 things that he was doing. He was in final stages of melanoma that had gone into his brain. The first thing he was doing was he was calling everybody on the phone that he thought he had ever hurt or that had ever hurt him. And he was making things right with every single person that he was, you know, estranged from for whatever reason. That really had impact on me. And the second thing he was doing was that he had a theme song. And he had a little CD player next to him, and it was just on repeat, and it was the one song going over and over again. And his wife told me that he had that on 24 hours a day, that one song. That was his focus. And so when I was diagnosed with cancer, I thought, I'm going to do those 2 things. I'm going to make things right with whomever, and I'm going to pick out a theme song. And so for me, that theme song was Psalm 23. It was set to music by a man called Howard Goodall, and he wrote the music for Mr. Bean, but he was a choir guy. His academics were in choir, and so just such an amazing, beautiful choral adaptation of Psalm 23. I'd never heard Psalm 23 like that before, even though I memorized it when I was a little boy. And so I just listened to that hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times. That was my focus. you realize none of this stuff matters. The news on the TV, and it doesn't matter. You think, okay, it's about family and friends and faith and just folks. That's what I whittled it down to. That's all. It's what matters. And so a lot of things get simplified when you're going through this disease.
Somebody approached me last week, and I had to do what you were just mentioning. They really wanted to be part of the thing this weekend, and they just felt like they needed to talk to me about it. And I had to, I talked to them today, and I said, look, I'm a bastard. I'm a complete jerk, and I've owed you an apology for a long time. And I said, over something that probably neither one of us remembers, but I said, I'm so glad that you reached out. And I said, it's a cliche, but it's probably a cliche for a reason, that you find out who wants to be there when you need them the most. And I said, I'm so sorry if I did anything to make us estranged, but I'm so grateful that you reached out.
Boy, that's the truth, Bruce. And it's amazing, because certain people that you thought or assumed that would contact you and reach out, they don't. And other people on the perimeters of your life, they get in touch with you, and they're the ones that are concerned, and they're the ones involved and caring and picking up the torch for you and bringing things to you and praying for you. It's a crazy dynamic that happens. You learn a lot about different folks.
I've told you my Chuck songs. Is there one for you, Alex? Is there a favorite Chuck song, or one you want to suggest here that we listen to at part of this conversation?
Well, there was a song that I loved when it was more bluesy, called Take No Chances. That was, and Freddie played, in the original love song, Freddie played a big violin solo on that, Freddie Field. That was always just a great one. Of course, Little Country Church.
Yeah.
There's actually two different recordings of it that I know of, and the first one on the original Everlasting Living Jesus Music Festival album, that guitar solo was by Freddie, and it's got so much more bite. It's aggressive. Although, rest in peace, Bob Wall, he was the replacement later, but the solo that was on the Love Song album, I think, was that on the first album, I guess?
Yeah.
Little Country Church.
Yeah.
To me, it never held the authenticity of the original guitar solo on the first Maranatha album.
They're talking about revival and the need for love. That little church has come alive, working with each other for the common good, putting all the past aside. Long hair, short hair, some coats and ties, people finally coming around, looking past the hair and straight into the eyes, people finally coming around. And it's very plain to see, it's not the way it used to be. No, 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 no.
Bruce, you have a song you want to suggest?
I think I said Sometimes Hallelujah earlier.
And that Sometimes Hallelujah is it's a great song in that it kind of represents that it's a congregational worship song. It's something that it's
Right.
not designed to be performed as much as it is designed to be sung by everybody in the whole place. You know, it's like
Right.
everybody's singing Our Hearts in One Accord. You know, it's like
Right.
the lyrics in the song are instructive to what it's there to do. And that song, Sometimes Hallelujah, is one of those archetypical early, songs like that you can see. That was a big one, and my mom loved that song. I remember hearing her sing that around the house like crazy. That's a great example.
Heaven is rejoicing. You can sing a little louder. You can sing it to the Father. Sing it unto Jesus. And the Holy Spirit. Sing it to the Father. You can sing it unto Jesus.
And they used to close with Psalm 5 too, which God bless Bill Sprouse. I don't think it had come out yet. That was wow.
Give ear to my words, O Lord. Consider my meditation. Hearken unto the voice of my cry, my King and my God. For unto thee will I pray, my voice shalt thou hear every morning. O Lord, in the morning will I direct my prayer unto thee, and will look up.
Well, thank you guys. I really appreciate your candor in this, and it's a sad reason to stop the presses and come together and talk about this, but I couldn't think of two better people to do it with. So I really appreciate it. So,
Thank you.
Thank you.
thank you guys. And
bless you
thank you,
guys.
Lord, for Chuck and for Rick Elias and for so many of our other friends that cancer has taken from us away. And like Chris, you bring up Chris and it just takes my breath away. He was so young too. It's like there's just, the list is so long. So thank you guys. We'll see you soon.
Love you guys. Bye-bye.
Lay your burden down. Lay your burden down. Take your troubled soul, your tired mind, and lay your burden down. Lay your burden down. Get your feet on solid ground. Take your worries to the foot of the cross and lay your burden down. Lay your burden down. Lay your burden down. Take your weary life, your heavy load, and lay your burden down. Lay your burden down. Get your feet on solid ground. Take your failures to the foot of the cross and lay your burden down. Lay your burden down. You've been trying hard to make it all alone, trying hard to make it on your own, and the strength you once were feeling isn't there no more. And you think the wrong you've done is just too much to be forgiven, but you know that isn't true. Just lay your burden down. He has forgiven you. Lay your burden down. Lay your burden down.
Thanks, Alex, Bruce, and Terry. Before we wrap this up, I hope this Memento Mori episode has been encouraging to you. I would like to leave you with a thought or two. How powerful would it be if we could each live our lives as if today was our last? How much more radically would we love? What kinds of things might we decide we just don't have an interest in fearing anymore? And if that's the case, what's to stop us from living that way anyway? Chuck's song Slow Down really did a number on me as a very troubled kid coming through the trauma of my early years and enduring what felt like a never-ending litany of health problems in my teen years. There was one particular nun who used to come into True Tunes and buy copies of Chuck's album over and over just for that song. She challenged me to listen to it deeply and to let it work on me. It's kind of hard to even talk about now because the idea of slowing down was and is so hard for me. But that sister, all those years ago, had a special ministry of focus, relaxation, and calm. I think she could tell I needed to strive a little less and find some peace. I told Chuck about that one of the times we met. I still suck at slowing down, but I do think I strive a lot less, and I have become much more comfortable with my own mortality. There's a piece I've bumped up against a time or two, and music has often been a part of those encounters. I hope you'll join me as I pray for peace and healing for everyone struggling with illness and pain, and I thank God that we have been given the blessing of caring for each other during the one beautiful life we have been granted. Okay, I'm climbing off my soapbox now. Hey, that might be a good thing to put on my tombstone. That's going to do it for this episode of the True Tunes podcast. Thanks again to Alex, Bruce, and Terry, and to Todd Zeller for the help with this one. Peace and grace to the entire Girard family and to all of Chuck's close friends and the Love Song guys. If you enjoyed this episode, we have over 100 others for you to check out. It would also really help us out if you would jump over to truetunes.com and sign up for our email list. And thank you to our patrons. There is a free membership you can get there, and from time to time I will post some special stuff that anyone can get. But to those of you who give a few bucks a month, thanks so much. Head over to patreon.com/truetunes and sign up now. This podcast was written and produced by me, JJT, with co-production, editing, and sound design by Bruce A. Brown for Gyroscope Productions. Our theme song is a special instrumental mix of Full Circle by Phil Keggy and Rex Paul. The contents of this program are protected by U.S. copyright law and are the intellectual property of Gyroscope Productions, with the exception of songs or clips that are from previously copyrighted materials. Everything on this episode is used by permission or under fair use provisions. This program is intended for the private use of our listening audience. Gyroscope Productions can be reached at jjt@truetunes.com or P.O. Box 60401, Nashville, Tennessee 37206. Until next time, remember, it's very plain to see. It's not the way it used to be. So, stay tuned and stay true. Peace.